Just remind me, okay, before the class, so that you can watch it later also if I forget to turn on the recording. Okay, so a system can be a website, a software component, a business process, application, anything. Got it? Like this. This is how your system will be represented. It can be small module of your whole system also. For suppose you are trying to draw a ERP system. ERP subject you have read now? Enterprise wala. Even you haven't read this, had read or not this ERP? Yes or no? Okay, no issue. So there is a ERP system in which there are some further subsystems also. It is kind of a dashboard, okay, where you can enter your personal information. You can check your payrolls. For example, if you join in any company, you will have your SAP portal, like you have your SAP ID also. Okay, so there will be a SAP portal through which you can access these functionalities of the system. So ERP is a whole big system in which there are small system. For example, there is a system to enter the personal details. There is a system to manage, make payrolls. So the UML use case diagram system which you are drawing, this need not be this whole ERP system. You can take this small system also and can create a use. Anything will work. Got it? So we have seen an actor, we have seen what a use case is, and we have seen a system. Just let me give you all the components that we are going to use, then we will see that real example by connecting everything in the use case diagram. Okay, so there are basically these relationships, main four relationships between in a use case diagram. First is the association. Second is the include relationship. Relationship means how this actor is interacting with this use case, or how two use cases are interacting with each other. Okay, this is what is meant by a relationship. So there is association relationship, there is include relationship, there is exclude relationship, and there is generalization relationship. These four are the relationships that we will study in use case diagram. Association is nothing but just, as the name suggests, association means this person is associating with this use case. For example, if there is an actor here and association is drawn with the help of a line, a single line, no arrows. Association is drawn with the help of a single line, and here will be the, suppose, login. Login is the use case. So between this actor and this login, if you draw the single line, this means that this actor is associated with this login, means he is doing this login process. This is what is meant by association. Nothing but just this actor is interacting with this login page. Got it? See here, this is that diagram for an association, that this student is associated with borrow books. This means nothing but just that student is borrowing books. Simple, no complicated meaning for association. This is the diagram for include. Just keep this diagram in mind. Now we will see what it means. This is the diagram for include. In the lab I told you na what is include. Remember? Sir, what is the need of uses? Here the uses. Kshitij. Uses? What uses? Use cases you are saying, or what? Back in the slide. This you are talking about. This is also a kind of interaction. This is also a kind of interaction relationship. We will see what uses are. Okay, like association is a relationship, extend is a relationship, generalization is a relationship, include is a relationship, uses is also a relationship, which we will see. But this means that if this is a use case, suppose X use case, and this uses, say, Y use case. This means this X requires this Y. Not a very important use case, and this you will not see, not a very important relationship, and this you will not see in most of the diagrams also. Okay, because we primarily need only those four. This user simply means if there is a uses between two use cases, it means the first use case is using the second use case to fulfill its goal. For example, there is a use case run. Okay, and there is another use case, say shoes. And if this run use case is using this shoes, this means that to run you need shoes. Just simple, the meaning of English uses. Okay, we will see this in the last, very last. So you remember what are include use cases? I told you, no, in the lab, B1, B2 both. What do you think this include is representing here? Yeah, totally checked, or you can say whenever this actor student is interacting with this use case borrow books, whenever the actor student is trying to borrow books, automatically in the background the fine will be checked whether there is some fine or not, or automatically in the background it will be checked whether the book is reserved by some other person or not. Means whenever this use case is called, in the background these two use cases will also automatically be called. If you see here, the user student is not directly interacting with either this check fine, or he is not directly associating, you will say association relationship, is not directly associating with this either check fine, or he is not directly associating with this check reserved book use case. He is not associating with both of these. But if he associates himself with this borrow book, automatically in the background these two use cases will be called. And what is the syntax? You have to show this dotted line and write include here. So this will mean by representation, visual representation, or obviously nothing is happening in the system. This is just a visual representation. You will show that whenever student is interacting or whenever student is borrowing a book, automatically the fine is checked in the background, and whether that book is present or given to someone else, that will be checked. So that is include, means there is a base class, base use class, and there is a include use class. If there is this include relationship between the base class, this borrow books, and the include class, that is check fine and reserved book list, then automatically to complete this base use class, or whenever this base use class is called, automatically this include use class will automatically be called. Okay, we will see an example again, don't worry. Another relationship is this extend. Let me show you first. Okay, so we have seen what includes mean. Okay, for example, suppose there is a use case place order, and if it is including another use case that login. So suppose you are on Amazon website and you try to place a order. So when you try to place a order, automatically the page refreshes to log. You haven't tried to log in. You just try to place some order. After getting added to the cart, it automatically sends you to the login page, that first login. So this is what is meant by include, that whenever you try to call or associate with this use case, automatically the included use case will be called. Okay. Now let's take the same banking example which we were seeing. So initially we were having this login use case, check balance use case, transfer funds use case, and make payment use case. So what I did, this was my primary actor and bank was my secondary actor. So first whenever I'm pointing the cursor here or showing something, just look at that thing only. Okay, don't focus on other use cases now. So this is my first use case login, this is my second use case check balance, third use case transfer funds, fourth use case make payment. So I drawn this association line from user to first use case, user to second use case, third and fourth. This is association. Means this customer is logging, this customer is checking the balance, this customer is transferring fund, this customer is making payment. This is not showing you any sequence, in which sequence he is doing. Keep this thing in mind. UML diagram doesn't shows you the sequence of the use cases called or happening. How the use cases are, which use case is called first, which use case is called second. UML diagram doesn't tell you that. Seeing this diagram, you cannot tell now whether user is logging first or he is transferring first. So that functionality is not there in a UML diagram. It just shows you that the user can log in, the user can check balance, the user can transfer fund, and the user can make payments. So this was a primary actor who can associate or who can initiate these 4 use cases. Now here is my secondary actor, that is the bank. If you see here, I haven't associated this bank to this login, right? There is no association between bank and login. Why? Because bank is not concerned with login for now. A user will log in, na? Bank will not log in, right? But when the user is checking his balance, then the bank is also associating with this check balance, because you cannot check your balance without the help offered by the bank. You cannot transfer the funds without the background help offered by the bank. You cannot make any payment without the background help offered by the bank. You can think here that in login, the bank will verify the password, will display login error, and so on and so forth. Okay, these things are okay, fine. They will be there. But explicitly, login use case will not be accessed by the bank. This is what this diagram is representing, that a user will log in, a bank will not log in. Because this use case login is only for the login purpose. It is not here checking anything that whether the login is correct or not. This is here just to give you this login page, that enter your user ID, enter your password. This is just your login page. So the user will log in, bank will not log in. So that is why bank is not associated with this login use case. But to check balance, to transfer funds, or to make payment, bank has to associate itself with these. So these lines can be drawn straight also. This is just a visual representation, nothing else. What I told you, Saurabh, right now, just focus on these 4 for now, na? Told you, na? We will go step by step. Don't worry. Okay, now just focus on these 4 use cases. We will see how bank is interacting. Now suppose when till this point everyone got till these 4 cases, use cases. Okay, now suppose when the user is trying to log in the background, there will be a verify password use case also, and there will be a display login error use case also. There will be these 2 use cases also. Okay, when you're trying to log in the background, the bank or someone, for now just suppose someone should be able to verify your password, and if your password is wrong, someone should be able to display error. So I created 2 more use cases in my system. One is the verify password and other is the display login error. So if you see here, whenever you will log in, in the background there has to be a password check whether the password you have entered is correct or not. That is why from login to verify password, I have shown this include relationship. Between this login use case and this verify password, there is a include relationship, that whenever you try to log in the background, the password will be verified. Got it? Now see this extends relationship. So what this extend relationship means? Extend means, yeah, not optional choice given to the user, but it means it will be optionally included. For example, suppose there is a class X and there is a class Y. Always keep one thing in mind. For include, if you want this class Y to be included, whenever this class X is called, you have to show the arrow in this diagram for include. But for exclude, if you there will be the actor here. The actor will interact with X use class, X base class. So whenever actor is interacting with this X class, you want that sometimes this Y should be called, not always. In the include, always this Y was called. but you want that y should not be called always. Sometimes it should be called. So the symbol or the direction for exclude is opposite to the direction of include. This means that this in that here you will write exclude. So this means that whenever user, this actor, is interacting with this X use class, not always, but sometimes this Y will be caught. Let's see example. Same example of this customer. Suppose this was my first use case. That is, whenever login is called, every time you have to verify the password. But this my second use case which I have created, display login error. Not every time your login error will be there. Only when you have entered some wrong passwords, some wrong user ID, there is some error. Only in those cases, only in those extraordinary, or you can say circumstantially cases, this display login error will be called. So that is why see the direction. The extend direction is towards this. So this means what this system is saying, that whenever this login use case is called, you have to always check or verify the password in the background. But if this login is having some error or there are some error while the login, only in those cases you have to display this login error message also. So this is the difference between login relationship and include relationship and exclude relationship. Include will always call this second use case no matter what. Whenever you are trying to log in, every time the password will be checked. But exclude me, extend. But this extend means that not every time this display login error message will be displayed. No voice? Am I audible or not? I'm audible, Chandra. Just refresh your web page once. Okay. So this is the difference between extend and include. Let's see one more example. Suppose you sneeze. ठीक है, छींक आ रही है आपको. So whenever you are sneezing, you will always close your eyes. अब आँख खोल के छींक लेते हो तो अलग बात है, but generally people close their eyes while sneezing. So what will come here? Include or exclude? Include, right? That whenever you are sneezing, automatically your eyes will be closed. But every time while sneezing, do you say excuse me? Every time you sneeze, do you say excuse me? No, right? कभी कभी बिना बोले भी छींक देते हो ना. Every time you don't say excuse me. So that is why this is a exclude. Means sometime while sneezing you will say excuse me, but sometimes you will also not say. See the direction. Includes direction is towards the include class, and exclude direction is away from the exclude class. Keep this direction thing in mind. Anyone having any doubts in this include and exclude? Just one minute. Give me one second. Yeah, I'm audible. So this was, we have seen association relationship, we have seen include relationship, and we have seen the exclude relationship. Okay. Now the fourth relationship is, and one more thing. If suppose you want to transfer funds, this is your one use case, and this is your another use case that you want to make the payment. So either you want to transfer funds or you want to make payments. In the background, what should be checked? That you should have sufficient money with you. to make any payment or make any transactions. So in the back, one more use case I created, that is verify sufficient funds. So why I'm showing you this is, one use case can also have includes of two. Means whether this transfer fund is called or this make payment is called, they can both point to one use case. Okay. Apart from this, what could be the other solution? You could have written verify sufficient funds once and include of transfer funds, and you could again written verify sufficient funds and include of make payment. That will also be right, but unnecessarily it will create another use cases. And what I told you in the very beginning, a use case diagram is not something that you write 20 use cases or 30 use cases to create one diagram. तो सॉफ्टवेयर ही बना दो, इतना कॉम्प्लिकेटेड बनाना है तो. It should be very minimal. Very minimal use cases should represent your whole system. Right? Like someone just right now asked, sir, whether this verify password and display login password will be connected to this bank or not. It's up to you. Suppose you want to say, of course, you know that there is in the background, he is also interacting. So you can draw these lines, no worries. This verifies sufficient funds. Who is verifying this sufficient funds? Obviously, the bank is verifying. So you can show association relationship between them also. But what will happen? This will just unnecessarily complicate the system. This will unnecessarily show you the more lines. There is nothing wrong. In the exam, you will not know whether to connect, whether to not connect. In the exam, when you are drawing any use case diagram, obviously you will draw the line from bank to this verify password also and display login error also. So it's up to you. But the central theme that you should have in your mind is, my use case diagram should be very simple, with minimum number of actors, minimum number of use cases, and minimum number of relationships also. With everything minimum, you have to show the full representation or the visual representation of the system. Got it? So that is why this I have drawn a single use case here. And sir, should not be there association between verify password and display login error? Here yours. Yeah, here also you can say that there is a exclude command coming here. But see, what purpose it will solve you, Kshitij? Now the same thing comes. Will it solve any other purpose? Abhi tak jitni information you are giving to the system with this use case, will connecting these two use cases, can you show some extra information? No. Then why to complicate the system, right? This is nothing, just a diagram you are making. You can do whatever you want. But you have to keep in mind, if no extra information is coming to show relationships between these, then why to unnecessarily complicate the system? Because if you show relationship between these two, then when the login user will interact with only login use case, only this use case will be called or can be called first. So whenever user will call login, you will include verify password, and suppose here you give include command again. So you will include display login error also. But this extend is also doing the same function. If you want to show it this way, then remove this extend. Right? Got it? Similarly with extend, if suppose this verify sufficient funds was to be written for extend, you can write same use case to be extended for transfer funds also and make payment also. No need to necessarily create more and more use cases. The same use case can be used for multiple includes also and multiple excludes also. Okay. Now the next, any doubts, anyone? Fine, all clear? Okay. So the next is the generalization. This is represented with the arrow. Suppose this is one use case, this is another use case. So this will be represented with the arrow. Simply put in one line, if you want to understand what generalization is nothing but inheritance. Means if you are generalizing this child class to this parent class, I gave you the example of waiter. Employee means every waiter is a child class of employee. So what is a child class? Child class will have all the properties of this parent class. That is what inheritance is. Child class will have all the, I gave you the example of Sachin Tendulkar and his son. Suppose this is the son, this is the father. So his son will have all the properties of father, but son will have some extra properties also. For example, suppose Sachin Tendulkar's son is good with suppose cricket because of his father, suppose. So he has acquired the properties of cricket from his father good, but he can have his separate properties also. For example, he can be a good artist, suppose. Right? So generalization is nothing just directly inheritance. For example, now where you will use in your use case diagram. Suppose you want to make this payment. You want to make the payment. So you have two options to make the payment. Either you can make the payment from your say current account. This is your say current account, and or either you can make the payment from your savings account. So these two cases are nothing but the children of this parent class. So this means whenever this, what does this visually represent? This represents that whenever customer is associating itself with make payment, or the customer is making the payment, you have the option either to make the payment from savings or current account. With the help of a arrow, generalization is represented. Just inheritance. Generalization is nothing, just inheritance. Keep that thing in mind. Okay, this is your parent class. This is your child class. So what do you think? Between actors, can there be inheritance? Can I make some actor here and he can inherit, he was inherited from this customer, and I can make some actor here and he is inherited from this customer. Can we do that or not? Why do you think we can do that? Because as I told you, you are the developer, you are the artist, you can do whatever you want, no issues, right? For example, this. For example, in the customer also, the actor, the customer, there can be two types of customers. For example, suppose there can be someone who is a new customer, or there can be a customer who is a returning customer. For example, suppose you are writing a use case for an examination system. So this is your examination system, and here you have drawn a use case that is a say user. So now this user can be either a student, or suppose this use case is either a teacher. So these two are children of this use case. So visually what this generalization represents, this arrow will be towards the parent class. Keep that thing in mind. This generalization is nothing, it is just representing inheritance. That this thing can have type A and can have type B. Simple, nothing else. This customer can have type A, new customer, type B, returning customer. Any doubts? Any doubts? All clear? Now one last thing in this topic is this extension points. Normally how you are writing use cases, you are writing a circle, and in that circle you are writing the use case names. There is one more format, circle separated by a line. In the above part you write the name of the use case, that is setup profile. This setup profile is my use case, and below this line you will write the extension points. Extension points means nothing but, so this is my mobile application, this is my use case setup profile. So when I'm setting up profile, I can have two more options, either profile help or some info. So this extend points is nothing but just a representation for this extend. If you haven't written this extension point here, if you haven't written this extension points here, how you would have included these two use cases also, profile help and privacy info, like this, that whenever the setup profile is called, extend, you can call, not always. The user have the option, na, he can either enter here, move forward, or he can click here. It's up to him, it's up to the user. So if you don't have this extension point formalities for now, suppose you don't have this functionality for now, and you have written this setup profile use case, so how you can include these two use cases? Using extend or include? First tell me that. You will use include or you will use exclude? Extend, right? Why not include? Because every time this setup profile use case is called, every time you are not going to call help or info. Not every time a user will click on these two use cases. Every time the user will not click. Only if he needs the info, only if he wants to go for the help or the info, he will click on that. So that is why it will be represented by extend. And if you don't want to show it like this, it is giving some complex view to your system, then you can write just a single circle here, just a single use case circle here. Write the main use case, that is setup profile, and what are the optional use cases that you are giving to the user, profile help and privacy info. Just below this line you can write them. Got it? And this is nothing but just a note, a kind of comment you write in your code, that if user clicks help link, then go to profile help, kind of thing. So you can show some notes also. On every kind of association, you can write notes also with the help of this toolbar. Now after this, how my overall whole system is going to look like? अभी तक जो हमने example देखा आज की class, how my whole system looks like. Here is my primary customer, who is logging, who is checking the balance, who is transferring the funds, who is making the payment. There is my secondary customer, bank, who is concerned with checking balance, transfer funds, and make payment mostly. All the other things are also performed, but mostly he is associating with these things. Whenever user is logging, automatically this verify password is checked in the background. And if sometimes the login password is wrong, you will display extend. You will display the error message. Every time the user is transferring fund or trying to make some payment, automatically include, automatically in the background, sufficient funds are there or not will be checked. Right? To make the payment, user can either make the payment in savings or from the current account. This is shown with the help of generalization. You can also show generalization here, like there is a new customer, there is a returning customer. You can also show generalization here. There is private bank, there is public bank, but that is not necessary because this will be made for a single bank only, so that will not be required. Unnecessarily, we don't have to complicate. Right? And the next use case is user can set up his profile. Setting up his profile, he can go to the profile help or he can take some info also. So this is my overall use case diagram will look like. Now tell me, any doubts to anyone? And that uses relationship, okay, between, suppose this is use case 1, this is uses relationship, this is another use case that is not used in most of the cases. We will see some of these examples where it can be used in the lab, but this is not that much important. You can use it if you want. If you want to show something, you can use, otherwise not required. Okay, but these four are very important. Association is obviously, this is the first line of interactions. Association is there. Include and exclude also very important, because what actually include and exclude is helping you with, the user is only interacting with this, automatically this and this is checked in the background. right? Unnecessarily we don't have to interact with this also, he has to interact with this also. ऐसा कुछ नहीं हो रहा है. So it's just giving you a clean look. Generalization helps to inheritance concepts. Okay, generalization helps for the inheritance concepts. And in the use case diagram, basically you use generalization to show the types. For example, this can have three types: type A, type B, type C customer. So to show the types you use. Now tell me, any doubts? Let me show you one more diagram, last diagram for today. This is another use case diagram. Now tell me, what are the primary actors, what are the secondary actors here? Fast. This is a diagram for the ATM transaction machine. What are the primary actors, what are the secondary actors? Okay, you think. User is the primary. Okay, any other primary actor? Sure. How this maintenance use case is called? Who is calling this maintenance use case? With this diagram, you think that server is calling the maintenance? Pakka. Think from the real life perspective. ना सामने लिखा भी हुआ. पहली चीज तो in the initial only I have told you whatever is written on the left hand side is your primary actors, and whatever there is on the right hand side is your secondary actor. But suppose in this example it would have been that here could be the secondary actors, here could be the primary actors. But if you are saying that user is my primary actor and he is on the left hand side, then obviously server cannot be my primary actor. He has to be secondary actor. Otherwise, they would both be written on the same side. Right? What is a primary actor? Who is initiating the system? If you look at this maintenance, user is not interacting or not initiating this maintenance. User is not concerned with this maintenance part. This maintenance engineer is initiating this maintenance. So when this engineer is initiating this maintenance, only the server is the background. Server is directly the background. Server is concerned with everything. If you see here, either the user tries to make the withdrawal, server will come into picture, or the user is trying to make the balance inquiry or pin reset, or the maintenance engineer is trying to maintain the system. Everything is helped by the server. So server is a secondary actor. Okay. Now you can see what is happening inside the system. If the user is trying to make a withdrawal from the ATM, he has two options, either from saving or from current. What is this? What is this relationship? Include, extend, or generalization? What is this? Generalization, right? Direct arrow is generalization. Dotted arrow is include and extend. So if the user is trying to make the withdrawal, he can do it from the savings account or he can do from the current account. Whenever user is trying to make the withdrawal, you see there is an extend command, that print receipt. Means every time user is not printing the receipt. Sometimes he's just seeing his balance on the screen and just goes away. Sometimes he need the print screen, so the print receipt is there. Okay, user can do the balance inquiry, but if he needs the balance inquiry, or even he needs the withdrawal, or he needs the pin reset, or there is some maintenance, see everything is there. Include. In the background, inter pin is always there as an include function. Means whatever you try to do, pin has to be included at the last. So these diagrams you will draw in your lab. Okay. So got it? In any issues with use case diagrams? We will see this diagrams and more examples in labs also, which you have to draw. So now, by now, I think everyone must have understood what you have to do. Is this clear? Use case diagram? Perfectly clear. Okay. So this is a kind of question which will always come in your midsem also, endsem also. There will be case study on this. Case study means nothing, but this diagram will be written in English. You have to convert. You have to perform the natural language processing. Okay, NLP karna hoga. Whatever is written in the English, you have to give the visual representation like this. Okay, so we will see its examples in the lab. More examples which you will draw. Before ending the class, one more thing. I will give you one assignment today. Your class assignment, OAD assignment first. there will be some questions which you have to answer handwritten and upload by the next week, Friday night. Okay. And assignment doesn't means test that you have to close everything and write whatever you know. Assignment means whatever question I will give you can use internet, you can use any book, whatever material you want to use, just use that, collect the material for that, read that, and then you can write. Even if you read from internet and then write, then also the purpose of assignment will be solved. Okay, so I will give you one assignment today based on your module. We are in module 2 right now, but till this point, whatever I have taught, I will give the questions. The questions you don't know, search for their material and then write the answers. Handwritten. Scan and then upload on lab. Okay. Okay, then thank you. Enjoy your weekend. We will meet on Monday.